Welcome to this installment of Dubb Academy. Today's episode features Paige Battcher with her presentation of Follow-Up Fortunes.
Paige is an automation expert, marketing coach, power Dubb affiliate, and all-around awesome person. Paige, take it away.
I'm so grateful for you guys. So I've had such a beautiful time working with Dubb. For those of you guys who don't know me, I've been doing trainings around how to get more out of the software. And I don't know if I would call myself an expert, but I'm always learning. And I did have my biggest income month yet with Dubb affiliates because it's so easy to promote things that are changing people's lives and their businesses. So today's lesson's about follow-up fortunes, and I want to bring you back to the big picture here, which is the big three. These are the big three pipelines that you can automate in your sales process. From prospecting, you're also known as your nurture sequences. You can create drip campaigns that follow up with people who, are your ideal clients that you really want to work with. You've got your onboarding pipeline where you can connect with brand new clients who have said yes and start to systematize the onboarding process and build trust using video outreach. And then your offboarding would be things like gathering referrals, bringing them on to the next service that you offer, and collecting testimonials. So the other big picture to all of this, and the thing that's so wonderful about how Dubb works, if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go get yourself a free trial and check it out, is that we're basically combining human connection. So on the left here, personalized one-on-one outreach, which is fast. It's so fast because of how Dubb works and creates instant landing pages. It's incredibly effective because people are craving human connection right now more than ever before. And it allows you to just be your authentic self. And then we move into one-to-many automated nurturing, also known as drip campaigns. And that's really what I'm here to talk about today. The red arrow is telling you that don't go building complicated things out until you get really good at simple. If you've been hearing conversations around having tripwire funnels and one-time upsell funnels and all these things that are starting to feel complicated and overwhelming, then just go back to the basics, because I'm here as living proof that this stuff works, and it works really, really well. So the average prospect needs 6 to 12 touch points before making a buying decision. And I want to mention that Dubb landing pages with videos and call to actions are an incredibly effective tool. They're not the only answer. They can be combined with other touch points like phone calls, voice notes, direct messages, text messages, handwritten notes. Like, we all love getting a nice handwritten piece of mail these days, gifts and shout outs. So let me just put this idea out there that if you're really wanting to gain someone's business and trust, and you've reached out to them a couple of times with videos, don't hesitate to go like and comment and share and shout out and tag them on their social platforms where they spend the bulk of their time. They will absolutely take note. And timing is everything. I feel like this is so important, is that people buy when they're ready to buy, not when you're ready to sell. So everything you create should come from a space of wanting to give value and genuinely be helpful, because you don't know what's going on in their life, if they're moving, if they're in between a transition, if they just hired someone to fill that role, if they are, gearing up and making sales to be ready to hire you. Timing is everything. And as I mentioned already, statistically, they need at least 6 to 12 touch points. It's worth mentioning again, because if you take anything away from this training, remember that if you're only reaching out once or twice or 3 times at most, you are losing out on a ton of potential sales. And sometimes it's even more touch points than that, depending on the industry, the level of familiarity with you, your connections within the industry, and the stakes involved, perhaps even the price. Depends on how long your buying process is. But here's the really most important part, is that statistically speaking, you have to hear no to hear yes. So if you're not hearing no, it's probably because you're not making enough offers. And I just want to remind everyone of that there's nothing inherently personal or problematic with hearing no. It is legitimately part of the process. And this is a question I ask a lot of people, and I ask my clients. It's like, Have you ever felt grateful when somebody follows up with you because you were literally trying to juggle every single thing in your life? Their email to you had landed, 3 days ago in your inbox, and now you can't find it in the mix of everything else going on. I think we've all been in a place in our lives where we are just responding to the latest stimulus, and like it or not, there are times when we really truly had a desire to follow up with somebody, but we got busy. And so I feel grateful sometimes when people say, "Hey, I'm just following up." Right? It's like, great. Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about this. Let's continue the conversation. This is a study that the Harvard Business Review did of over 100,000 call attempts. So first, I want to make certain that I clarify that what we're talking about here with the Dubb Academy and Kismet Story Selling Academy is that we're looking at video outreach. So these are phone calls. It's a little bit different of a data set, but it very much speaks to the same exact environment that we have today. In fact, I sort of argue with people, or I guess I'm not arguing because they're agreeing with me, but I sort of discuss the fact that video is almost more powerful. Because think about when your phone rings, your phone is ringing in between the spam call you just got from somebody pretending to be the IRS, right? Somebody pretending to be your cable provider. Your mom called with some interesting news, and then all of a sudden you get a phone call. And now, this isn't to say that cold calling doesn't work. I absolutely believe it does in the sales process, but let me just move forward with some of this data and apply it to your video outreach. So here are some examples of what they talked about in terms of the best day to make contact. Wednesday and Thursday popped out. And I would tell you that video is almost even better for a buying decision because they might receive your video on a Tuesday, but they can't actually watch it on a Wednesday or Thursday. So you can start to see from the notifications that come through the platform when and where these folks are watching your video content. And so that's something to be aware of in your outreach process. Best times to make contact. And of course, this is a little bit different because we're sending out videos so they can watch them at their leisure. But this kind of shows you over this massive data set that people are really most active in making a decision in their life and a buying decision in the mornings and then right at the tail end of the day because they're like, okay, we got to just get these final decisions made for the day. So something also to keep in mind, not necessarily about, preventing yourself from sending something in the middle of the day, but this data is always really useful. Response times, this I don't think is incredibly as impactful when it comes to video because this is when you need to make a phone call within 5 minutes. And that's when the sales are most likely to be made, contact is most likely to be made. But what I will say about this is I will say, especially for those of you who are selling services and programs over the phone, or let's say you're doing a Zoom conversation before you make that ask, before you make the offer, the quickest thing you can do and the best thing you can do is within 5 minutes of getting off of that conversation, that phone call or that Zoom call, is sending a follow-up personalized video to round out and summarize the call and help move people move towards the next step. So that's something that you can do now faster than ever. And this is probably the most important of all the statistics that are in this study. It basically in green here, it says always make at least 6 call attempts. So in your mind, I want you to think about always making at least 6 video outreach attempts, right? Because just by making a few more attempts, this is what it says, sales reps can experience up to a 70% increase in contact rates. So don't give up after the first few. It's really, really important. I want to express just a couple of more things that are more on a philosophical standpoint that might bugging people, right? There's a concept called open loop. So every time you reach out to somebody and that person sees it, you create an open loop for them, right? And an open loop is when things feel incomplete for us. And if I heard from, let's say, Ruben or Shannon a couple of times and I hadn't responded, I have that open loop to want to respond, right? Our natural instinct in our energetic bodies is to want to close loops, right? And so people can do this you can help people do this effectively by getting them to say either yes or no. So my point in all of this is that you're actually doing somebody a favor by following up so that they can come to a conclusion and close that energetic loop for themselves and move on. If it's a no, not right now, then that's fine. If it's a yes, then you get to at least have that decision made. So this quote, if you already had some kind of interaction and that interaction was not a clear, definite no, then follow up as long as it takes to get a response. Never stop until you get a response. And I think that's so powerful and important, is that oftentimes we think, well, if we don't have a response, then they must not want to hear from me. But really, truly, the fortune is in the follow-up. It's not just a phrase, it's actual reality. The thing to ask yourself about, well, what do I even follow up with? What should I say? What kind of video or story should I tell? And you just need to keep asking yourself this question. What would you say if that person were with you in person? What would you say if it were a follow-up after a coffee meeting or meeting in a cafe or a lunch meeting? All you need to do is say that on video. It doesn't have to be any more complex than that. So I hope you've at least walked away from this presentation realizing that truly the fortune is in the follow-up. There's statistics that back that up. And if you want to learn more about how I'm particularly helping my clients use story in this process and then automate the follow-up, I invite you to go to kismetstoryselling.com. You can apply to book a call with me and we can talk about your sales goals. And also you can get yourself hooked up with the Dubb trial, a free trial. If you have not checked out this amazing software, you absolutely should. All right, that's all I have for you guys today, and we'll see you on the next one.